machines compared to the diesel engines we got that are like pickup trucks. They don't take that many people to service those. Access Road A. It's the road that runs across the yard, the west side. And we're going to go over the County 10 Bridge. The bridge that goes right over the middle of the railroad yard. The biggest rail fan draw anybody's own. It's only one of two bridges that we know of in the whole country that go over the middle of a railroad yard. The other one's up in Fridley, Minnesota. Knox College, this is the reason this town is here. This town was founded in 1835, and they wanted to build a school for the training of ministers of the gospel, because God-fearing Presbyterians came here from Oneida, New York, and they built the school in 1837. By 1852, the two major merchants in town, the two guys that owned the two general stores, knew that the Galesburg would survive and needed contact with the outside world and the railroad. And that's why they started their own railroad. This whole part of town right here, which is just south of Knox College, this used to be a farm. Because Knox originally opened as what was called Knox Manual Labor College. All the students had to work at the farm to pay their tuition. But finally, they didn't need it anymore in 1852, and they sold all this land to the railroad for $1. This is where the railroad yard was originally in 1852. And then, of course, it started expanding south from where it is now. 3 miles that way. You'll get to see all of it for the trip. This is the passenger main line. Comes out of the depot and goes straight to Burlington, Iowa, and then Ottumwa, Clear Cross, Iowa, Omaha, all the way to Denver. 8 Amtrak trains a day from Galesburg. That one was just there. And we have two big trains called the Southwest Chief from Los Angeles and back. California Zephyr to San Francisco, and the 2 trains to and from Quincy every day. So we have a total of 8 Amtrak trains a day through here. Those are the only trains that don't change crews. All the freight trains change crews in Galesburg. Galesburg is unique in the fact that no other terminal we know of, trains go in 7 different directions out of this terminal. So we have 7 districts. The crews take trains out and then wait a day and come back on the next train. But no other terminal we know of goes in 7 different directions. That's why our nickname has always been the Prairie Hub, because the trains go in so many directions. In 1942, 3 months after Pearl Harbor, Burlington knew that stuff was going to hit the fan. And in 1 year, they tripled the size of this yard. They built an entire, the hump yards, all new servicing facilities, 2 new roundhouses at the time plant. They tripled the size of this yard. And during those war years, this terminal set records that will
now there's a train going out.
Say no one can even think about breaking them. They were handling up to 10,000 to 11,000 cars per day through this terminal in those years. And in those years, the lake that they built south of town, Lake Bracken, they kind of, we're lucky they built that as big as it did, because during the war years, this terminal was drawing 1 million gallons of water per day out of that lake for their operations here. And it never went dry. Amazing design. These guys here are part of what we call a roundhouse Y. A Y track is where a unit can go one way and then back the other way and then turn the other way, and it's facing complete direction, just goes in a Y. This goes down this way, and you'll see it extends down there a little bit. Across the other way, down here. The motors come off the pit and they just go down one side and back the other until they face the opposite direction. So we don't need what used to be called turntables, where they put an engine on a table and actually just turn it. This takes a lot more room. Turntables are a pretty complicated piece of machinery. X's rather use Y's. All the tracks on this side are the receiving yard. This is where trains coming in the yard, pull in and stop. Road motors cut off and they go to the pit from the other end. Then the carman will bleed all the air, the 90 pounds of pressure that we use in the brake system. They'll bleed it all off because we want these cars to be rolling free. That's when we take them down to the hump and roll them down the hill and the classification track while rolling free. All the engines you'll see on this end are outbound consists because the service, I'll show you the service track and you'll be able to see it. This little building here now with the blue line on it, this is only what, 5 years old, 6 years old? It's called a wheel truing plant because the steel wheels right on steel rail, every once in a while they get little bits and stuff in them. And the thing is, especially on locomotives, they want those wheels to be perfectly smooth and perfectly round. So they built this building and they can spot 2 engines in here and they jack them up a little bit. And they can actually spin the wheels, and they have special grinding attachments, grinders that will file that wheel down to a perfect circle and with no defects on the edges at all. Because especially when an engine's pulling hard, you want good contact with the rail. Steel on steel is 0 coefficient of friction, but that's why we use sand to get trains started. You actually spread a little bit of sand to get a train moving. Because otherwise they'd sit there and just spin their wheels because there's no coefficient of friction between the wheels and the rail, both steel. The diesel shop straight ahead of us, this is where any engines that come in from the south end that have anything wrong with them that'll take more than 30 minutes to fix, they'll go through the building, those 2 doors you see straight ahead, they come in from the other end, they'll go through there, and they can fix anything. These guys are amazing. And they roll it out here and they add it to consists on this end. This is also the big parking lot you see. This is also where all of the train crews report for duty. They all report here first. This is where they get their paperwork.
In the engine shop.
And then they use vans to haul them all over town and out in the country to meet trains and change crews on trains. But they all report here first.
Really, can you?
That's the one in the door right there?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. There's that B unit I was talking about. No, the green one in the back.
Oh, I'm looking at this one.
The green one in the back is the one I was talking about.
They call it Cascade Green. It was a special color developed just for BF. It's named Cascade Green. I always loved that color. Oh yeah, and it's a real mine. It says Santa Fe instead of BNSF. The rail fans call those real war bonnets. It still says Santa Fe. There are certain ones of them that have the BN logo on them. They call those fake bonnets because they're not really Santa Fe going. Yeah, right. Okay, 95 when we merged with them, it's all downhill from there.
There's a dash A.
I'm being as facetious as I can get.
Focus. Yeah, the one directly back.
Since 95.
Stop focusing on the window. Come on.
On the right here is the diesel oil fuel
Beer
tank,
car.
2 million gallons. This terminal is
That car.
directly on the
Beer
Williams
car.
Brothers pipeline system.
That car used to be a beer car.
2 million
Oh,
gallons.
Yeah.
We use it directly to fuel our engine. But we also, right here on this oiling track you see here, we actually fill these tank cars with diesel fuel and ship them out to the smaller terminals around the system that have engines to service but aren't on the pipeline, and they pump it right out of these tank cars right into the diesel locomotives. We're doing this constantly, shipping it all over the system. Yep, there you go. Looks like beers now. All right, now we'll go out and go up over the County 10 Bridge. You'll be able to see the whole thing from up there. County 10 now, there's a bridge over the top. They added in 1985 when they rebuilt the yard. Before that, for years, there was actually a tunnel. It was under the whole yard. cars parked on this bridge. Everybody up there taking pictures and making recordings. It's going on.
That motorcycle had a few choice words.
Looking back there, that's the diesel shop. We're going to together. We had this end. These are inbound engines as this trains come in. They go in this end and then go across the bridge. Looking south, you can see the hump tower. The hump tower out there. That's where the control is for the hump tower. All the tracks on this side are receiving tracks. Now in the middle here, we'll pull up what we call the bowl. As the cars get up, they start rolling downhill by gravity. We call it gravity classification. And they start with one track, and then through switches they go 4, 8, 16, 24, up to 48 tracks. The computer that controls this is routing the cars by destination. So let's pick Barstow, California. We send trains, we get trains and send trains to 42 different terminals all over North America. And let's get Galbar, Galesburg to Barstow. We'll get 150 cars from Barstow, California in the bowl, and then the engines on the other end, the little tower right here, that's called the trimmer building. This is I work both ends. I work both the tower and the trimmer. Down here is where we pull the trains out of the bowl and take them out and put them in the departure yard. And if you've been up at the depot, you have seen our switch engines pull by with a string of cars and then stop and then start shoving back. That's what our engines do from here. They pull the whole train out until the train clears the departure track switch, and then they throw it and then they shove it right back in there. And usually after they shove it back in, as soon as the switch engine cuts off, the big road motors are standing right there to tie on. The crew may even be on it. See, we cannot spare a minute or two in keeping things moving in this yard. We've got so much stuff coming at us. We've got to get out to get it in, we've got to get stuff out to get it in. So we have to keep things moving all the time. We can't let up for a minute because there's so much traffic coming at us. We got to get it out of here. By golly, R&D looks pretty full today.
How many lines are there right here?
Pardon?
How many different rail lines are right here?
Yeah, well, there's 6 receiving tracks, or 8 receiving tracks now. We had to have 2 more. And then pull on down there. Then the bowl, you see from the hump, you'll be able to see it looks just like a bowl. It's a big bowl. And those
I can tell.
Those are the 48. Well, you'll see it better from down here. The 48 classification tracks.
So there's 48.
There's 48 of them. On the other side is the departure yard. 6 departure tracks, or 8 total. Departure tracks on that side, where the trains go. See, there's all the cars down there. Those are all grouped by destination. And then these engines you see sitting right here, the switch engines. I'm an ex-yard master. I hate to see switch engines standing still. I'm going to find out why those are standing still. They're not supposed to. But they're the ones that pull them out. And then you see come by the depot, pull them trains out and shove them back in the departure yard. 24/7, 365. Gotta keep moving. No holidays on the railroad. No holidays on the railroad. We can't afford. Matter of fact, next week we're going to replace the master retarder on the hump itself, and that's going to be an 18 to 24 hour shutdown. And that is going to absolutely devastate the traffic around this terminal. Just 24 hours. Not moving for that long is going to be tough to recover from. There's an inbound train. See, he's going right into the departure and receiving yard coming from the south. And he'll pull down until his rear end clears the switches down there, and then he'll cut those doors off and take them to the bed. All right. Any questions? Okay. Yes. 10 years ago, the Track and Train Experiment Center at Pueblo, Colorado, they do fantastic work studying the dynamics of train. And they developed what the system we call distributed power. They found out, and it's dramatic sometimes, the difference, when all the engines are on one end of the train and you're pulling, think about it, the couplers in between the cars, the weight and the torque on those couplers toward the front of that train is just incredible. I mean, if you've got a 18,000 ton train behind you, that head car, the coupler on that car you're pulling 18,000 tons with that coupler. But that's when they came up with the idea of putting engines, just auxiliary engines, either in the middle or on the rear, and letting the computer and satellite control them to keep that slack in the train even all the way through, so you don't never pull the train apart.
How come sometimes some of them are forwards and backwards?
Doesn't matter. The engine doesn't know which way it's going.
It still has the same amount of
The
power.
engine doesn't care which way it's going. They can go either direction equally well.
Decent motors can do that.
Usually the lead motor, they have the cab on the forward end. Sometimes they don't have to, but no, 99 times out of 10, the cab is on the head end. But otherwise, the rest of them are unoccupied, and they're running by the satellite.
Really?
The computer's actually controlling their throttles, and it's because it's measuring the slack, the tension in the train with sensors in the engine locomotive, and they actually keep the train perfectly taut. Let's say it's not too tight, it's not too loose, so that you never have a train jerking. Because jerking is what's bad, because that will break the knuckle and the train comes apart. Don't want that to happen.
How many is the crew?
Two.
Just two.
Conductor and engineer.
Every train, conductor and engineer. Railroads want to go just to engineer only. And I think that's a terrible idea, because these trains, all of these trains, are moving through every city, village, and town in this country, carrying the most dangerous, poisonous, destructive, explosive, any compound you can think of that by law cannot move in trucks. It has to move by rail. And these trains, we call it hazmat, hazardous material.
Yep.
And the stuff that's on these trains is nasty. And having two sets of eyes and ears on every train, I think, is an imperative safety-wise. You've got to have people there.
Does Buffett still own BNSF? Did Buffett own BNSF? Or
Pardon?
did Buffett, Jimmy Buffett, or not Jimmy, Warren Buffett?
We refer to him as Uncle Warren.
Yes.
Yes. His company owns BNSF. Berkshire Hathaway.
Yes.
Yeah. But he made a point of picking up BNSF. And the people on, what's that show on MSNBC? They made fun of him doing that. They thought he was nuts. But about a year later, they were discussing it in one of their panels there in the afternoons.